You must build a 5-story building. And this is how you get your wealth and power. Now, the first thing you work on is economics. You started practicing group economics, making your money bounce in your own community 8 to 12 times before it leaves. The second floor is politics. Our people got that backwards. They want to get into politics before they get in the economy. Backwards as hell. You won't make it. You buy every politician with the money you made on the first floor. The third floor is your court system, your police system. You control the court system so they won't be getting 40 years in jail for having marijuana. Then the fourth floor is media. You take your money off the first floor and you buy media. Black folk own 35 thousandths of 1% in media. You don't own media, you can't communicate, you can't organize, you can't motivate. The fifth floor is education. Education is a tool, just like a hammer and a saw. But you got to have an economy. See, when a kid graduates from school, the first thing you do, he should be able to go back to his own community and start building businesses and industries and drawing money into his community and hold it.
And I'm back. This is Brian HRap Williams into the bench media. This is a few minutes with HRap. Thank you for tapping in. As you know, I need you, if you're not watching this live, what I want you to do is this. I want you to go to www.theenderthebench.com, www.theenderthebench.com, where you can check me out. You can check out this program on my website, www.theenderthebench.com. You'll be able to see this in its entirety, come in late, and you'll be able to see the video from Black History that I'm going to show you. It is of, I believe, of importance. Thank you. Hit that like, hit that share, subscribe if you haven't on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's important that you do so. It's greatly appreciated. As I do at the beginning of every show, I thank my parents, Dolores and John. Dolores is my mother, John's my father. They came together to make me. I created this. Without this, you'll be doing something else with your valuable time. So thank you again. It is important that we support each other. Talking down. That's the name of this episode. Talking down. Talking down. Stop talking down on people because in situations and things that you view. And stop talking down to people and stop talking down about things. How about we just get a spirit of uplifting on our agenda? The thing is, we can no longer put ourselves in situations to whereas we are adhering to the subject matter and the standards of others. People outside of our community don't know our community. We speak a language, what many consider, look at me. What many consider is broken English, but it's not broken to us because we created it, we adapted to it, and it's how we communicate. We can no longer adhere to the subject matter of others. When we adhere to the subject matter of others, we tear each other down, we look down upon each other, and we mistreat each other, and then we fall subject to those tropes. Black people don't support black people. Black people have issue with black people, and that's from the outside looking in. Even as we joke, those jokes to others seem harsh. They're all in fun. If you have a big nose, like I do, you got teased about your nose. If you have a long face, like I do, you got teased about your face. It was all in love. It was part of being included. Some people, you can have psychologists and people and pathologists and things of that nature. And they say, hey, those are damaging characteristics and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? If you're on the outside, you don't know what it is. It is how we have adjusted and adapted to being under constant pressure, being a black man or a black woman or a black child or a black elder in these United States of America. You're under constant pressure. So don't tell me how to cope with it. You know what? How about this? Stop your people from following my people around stores. Stop your police officers from harassing my people. Stop your elected officials from passing laws to put me in a horrible situation. Have your magistrates, aka judges, rule fairly. That's what you do. If you want me to stop doing things separate of you, stop separating me from you. And that's why I said stop talking down. What we've had is a situation to whereas we have adjusted to other people's opinion of us, and we don't need to do that anymore. Let's no longer do that. We don't have to adjust to anything because contrary to popular belief, we're not a minority. We're the global majority, and we are the leading group in these United States of America. We are the leading group and population in these United States of America, because if you separate everybody in accordance to the way the world separates us, we would be the largest group in the country, not white, because white does not exist. White is a made up construct to create division. If we identify the way people identify worldwide in accordance to nationalism, we will be the largest group. So, with that being said, I want to get to one of the things that triggers me the most. The fact that we pay attention, it seems. I would love to be corrected. I would love to be identified as wrong. And then I could just move on to another topic. But this is a topic that bothers me. It seems as if we watch things and we watch, like if you watch your athlete, his jump shot isn't perfect. The way he does this, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this. It is a critiquing of denigration. It is not the enjoyment of that entity, whether it be football, basketball, or any form of athletics, or acting, or directing, or whatever it is. We find the fatal flaw in something and say, see, that's the problem. Why do we do that? Why do we pay attention to things to tear them down? Whatever happened to embracing something because it embraced you? The example I would love to give you is this. It was this comedian, late great comedian. His name is Rudy Ray Moore. He had a series of low budget films, and Eddie Murphy brought to light for the masses that those films were low budget and they were done the way they were done purposely for comedic value. People watched him and say, see, look at how shabbily that's put together. But no, he purposely made it a little extra shabby because, for one, I don't have the money. He didn't have the money to support a big budget Hollywood film. And because he didn't, he went an entirely different direction. And as me and my business partner, my brother, my main man, Mo, were talking about, and then it birthed other films. He did it, and then Robert Townsend did it in the 80s and the 90s, and then in the early 2000s, a brother by the name of Michael John White did the exact same thing, but with a larger budget, and he made it along the same lines. And you talk about Hollywood Shuffle and then Black Dynamite. And then in the midst of that, you saw a movie called Pootie Tang. Pootie Tang was a ridiculous movie made to be ridiculous. I think it was created by Chris Rock, directed by Louis C.K. Figured out, does make a difference. But they did those things to make fun of the world in front of us. And what a lot of people do is they watch and they critique. Well, they're going to stand it next to Goodfellas. They're going to stand it next to The Godfather. They're going to stand it next to Changing Places and all these wonderful Bridges of Madison County and Terminator. And you're going to compare it to some of the greatest films ever. But that's not the purpose of that film. When you look at P.D. Wheatstar, The Devil's Son-in-Law, and you hear all the colloquialisms, and you see black men in tight suits pretending to do karate, that was not for a serious action film. That was almost a buddy cop movie. When you watch Truck Turner, that's a buddy cop movie from our perspective. And it seems as if we've forgotten how to look at things through the lenses of our community. And when you look at things through the lens of our community, things totally change. We're not Hollywood. We're not what someone put us in. Just imagine this. Being somebody extremely creative, being somebody who's extremely ambitious, having the finances to do it to yourself, and then still being shut out the box and not having an outlet to do it in. Today, we have those outlets. But what we do, from what I see, and again, hopefully I get a whole lot of comments in the notes and saying, hey, man, you're wrong. This is how we see it. And then, hey, I'm happier. You've added to my joy. But if I'm wrong, if I'm right, then what we have to do is add to my joy and stop critiquing being overcritical. It's excellence. The goal is perfection. What you want, yes, but very good is okay in some cases as well. Because if I enter this as a neophyte and I don't really know what I'm doing, and I get to pretty good, just imagine if you keep supporting. I go from okay to all right, pretty good, great, excellent. We'll never hit perfect, but we can always strive for it. Why do we pay attention? Do we pay attention? Like when we listen to music. Shout out to Fonte, lead rapper for Lil Brother, or one of the rappers for Lil Brother. Sorry to say disrespect Big Pooh like that. But Fonte, he said, hey, man, people were asking him about his second album. He mentioned this on his second album. He said, man, I like the second album, but it's just not like the first one. He said, it's not supposed to be. And that's what I find ourselves doing. We compare everything. Is this guy better than this guy? Is this guy? No. How about this? When you eat dinner, if you're married, if you're at your parents' house, if you go to a restaurant, do you eat your sandwich? Do you eat your meal and go, that meal Thursday was better than this? No, you say, ooh, this was good. How about we enjoy things of that nature? And that fashion, I should say. How about we invest in what we're doing? And like this episode, I make this the best possible episode I can do. Will I get better? Of course I will. I'll get better tomorrow. I'll get better the day after. I'll get better the day after that, and so forth and so on. But if you want to compare this to my first episode I ever was on air by myself and on YouTube, it looks a ton better. I was using the exact same software. I have upgrades in technology and things of that nature, but it looks 1,000% better. I have space. I have backgrounds. I have thumbnails. I have titles on the screen. I can even put it where when the people come in the chat room and they comment, they can be a part of the show as well. But I don't go back and go, hey, well, I wasn't good. No. I was good as I could be at that moment. And I got better the next time I went on air. And to the point that I am now, guess what? In a year, I'll be leaps and bounds ahead I am now. But how about this? Enjoy the message. Enhance if it enhances you. And if I hit the goal of enhancing you so you can enhance the life for your great-grandchildren's grandchildren, that's the goal. That's the goal. Are we paying attention to critique, or are we paying attention to be entertained or engaged? That's the question. We don't need to tear something down to show that I am an aficionado, or I am the cream of the crop, or creme de la creme. I have certain standards. Because you know what those standards, guess what? I've eaten at dives and had some of the best food I've ever had. And I've eaten at well-to-do restaurants, 5-star restaurants, if you will. And I didn't enjoy the meal half as much. That's when I want to ask you the question. Are we enjoying things, or are we attempting to be a part of something just to say we're a part of it? See, it's easy to say, hey, man, HRap, you need to step up. You need to do this, or you need to do that. That's what you need to do, rap, blah, blah, blah. But did you get the message? Did you understand what I was saying? Did you receive what I put down? If you didn't, then you cheated yourself. And if you did, but you still found need to be overcritical, you've cheated yourself again, because at that point, you were more focused on what I was doing or how I said it than what I was saying. And at that point, you've done yourself a disservice, even taking 5 seconds out your day to pay attention to me. Because if your entire reason for listening or watching is to find the next flaw, hey, you know what? He needs to do something with that light. And when we find things like that, we are missing the forest because the trees are in the way. But we've been trained to do that. We've been trained to be uber critical, besides against the people who we should be uber critical against. We should be uber critical against the standard bearer. Who's the standard bearer? And here's a better question. Why are they the standard bearer? Why is it that if you enunciate to the best of your ability, if you use multisyllabic words, if you use the king's English to the queen's taste, that's the standard because someone told you that? But when you have a conversation, like when I worked at Reuters, an international media organization, none of the people from outside of these United States ever corrected their English. They just spoke in their they spoke in English via their native tongue, and they force you to understand them. They didn't do away with their accents, and I know people that do away with their accent. They didn't attempt to sound more American, and I know people who do that. But by and large, the people they held true to their Greek heritage, they held true to their Irish heritage, they held true to their Egyptian heritage, and they spoke with you. And we had wonderful conversation. I learned a ton of things. Why is it that we are attempting to adhere to a standard bearer whose standard is flawed? Because these same people who hold this standard in front of you and tell you you need to be way up here, they're not meeting those standards. Those same people that say, hey, if you ever make a mistake, via felonious mistake, or you have anything that we can call your character into question, you know what happens in that instance? You get left off the pile. Why is it that they've done studies and shown that white men with felonies on their record have a better chance with less qualification of getting a return call from an employer than a black man, much like myself, college educated, no felonious background, no background whatsoever, and he'll get a call back from me before me? How are we attempting to uphold standards that are not even being adhered to by the people who are allegedly holding up these standards? Like, you hear about, well, black men don't marry black women. Okay, that is definitely a problem. But how about this? Black men are 60% more likely to engage in their children's lives than any other culture in this country. So if 55% of the people aren't getting divorced, which puts you right back into the quote unquote baby mama, baby daddy category, because if you just had a party, you just paid $10,000, you went on a wonderful trip and you spent money on a ring, and that's the only thing I didn't do, but you now live separate from your children, you now live in two separate homes, and now you have to commune to your children instead of being in the same house with them. So we're in the same boat. Now we're in the same boat, but studies show I'm 60% more likely than anybody to engage. I'm 60% more likely to go get my children from school. I'm 60% more likely to do homework. I'm 60% more likely to give baths or things of that nature. So is it really a problem? Because if 70% of you are leaving your wives and 60% of us are engaging more, I'll take that trade-off. But we don't hear about that black on black crime, and you continue to regurgitate these erroneous facts. But black people hurt black people at the percentage of 92%. Oh, then you just say, hey, what about white people? Oh, we're not talking about them. But in order to have something bad, sir, gentlemen, ma'am, lady, you have to be able to compare something. If this is the greatest podcast you've ever seen, but this is the only podcast you've seen, that means nothing about my podcast, because what are you comparing it to? And that's when you say black on black crime, then you have to compare it. So it would be 92% versus 89%. So if we were in the classroom, both of us would get a B. Exactly, not a B plus and a B minus. It was just a B. And that's what I want you to understand. In order to identify something as bad, you must not look at who is considered the standard bearer, but you must look at the entire picture. Because when you have people like homeboy who got assassinated, he says 53% of black people commit all the crimes in America. 53% of black people are incarcerated. And then you look at the numbers and you find out it's only 38% of people in the prisons are black. And the vast majority of people in prison are white. You go, but if you say a loud enough time via one Adolf Hitler in a book called Mein Kampf, if you say it loud enough and enough times, it becomes the truth. And that's what it's become here in the United States of America. We believe that we are genetically predisposed to criminality. But then 38% of black people in prison, that's still too high, rap. But 58 to 62% of overturned convictions are via our brothers and sisters. So if we're going to jail at an alarming rate, but more than half of those convictions are being overturned, where does that put us? That put us being over-policed. That means we're oversaturated. That means we are being framed and duped. But you want to run the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Yes, they do. Numbers lie all the time. If you don't believe numbers lie, watch this. The greatest scorer in the history of the game is LeBron James. In the history of basketball, is LeBron James. LeBron James is the greatest. He scored more points than anybody, but he's not the greatest scorer. He doesn't score as efficiently as one Kevin Durant, one not Julius Erving, George Gervin, one Michael Jordan, or one Kobe Bryant. He doesn't score as efficiently as Bernard King. They're a better scorer. He scored, but the statistics say LeBron is a better scorer. He has scored more. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is another person in that conversation. He scored more, but he's not a better scorer. The statistics say, yes, he is. The reality says, no, he's not. Because when you see Bernard King score, when you see George Gervin score, you see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar score, you see Kobe Bryant score, and you see the late, when you see the great Michael Jordan score, you see, no, he's just scored more. But the statistics say otherwise. That's what I'm saying. Don't quote to me statistics. Don't tell me how violent Chicago is. Oh, it was 500 people killed at murder. That's crazy, HRap. Tell you what, here's another statistic. This is another set of numbers that I want you to pay attention to. Watch this. You have a bill for $3 million. It's a $3 million. This is making a fictitious light bill for $3 million. How ridiculous does it sound to put $600 on it? You wouldn't even feel comfortable saying, well, I got $600, because you would know it means nothing. 3 million to 600, you would look ridiculous. And that's how ridiculous those crime statistics are. When you say it's 6 million people in the city of Chicago, one person murdered is one too many. One person murdered is one too many. But when you say, well, 450 people got murdered out of 4 million, that's not a lot. And again, because you always have people, well, that was my cousin, that was my uncle, that was this, and that was that. We're talking about the grand scheme of things. We're speaking of the grand scheme of things. It's not a lot of people when you look at 3. And let's just say 1,000 people were murdered out of 4 million. Always use that. We're gonna go back to that thing. If you had a $3.5 to $4 million light bill and you put $1,000 on it, you would feel foolish. You can keep that, and that's what it is. Is human life more valuable than a light bill? Yes, but the analogy is spot on. The analogy itself is spot on. I don't want one person. I wouldn't give a damn if you were somebody I hated more than the devil hates God. You don't deserve. You shouldn't die. So don't overlook what I'm saying to hear what you want to hear. Again, back to stop talking down, start listening. When you listen to understand, you'll understand people. You can give people examples of what you're talking about. And because they only hear you, they start talking because they assume they know what you're going to say. And then it's a further misunderstanding. Worst thing that can happen between two people, a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. If you have a misunderstanding, it's a very difficult thing to overcome because you get emotionally involved. You get, you get agitated. You get annoyed. Or my favorite word these days, you get irritated. I love that word for whatever reason, I don't know. But you get irritated, and then the communication breaks down. And then you start to hear what you want to hear, and they start to hear what they want to hear. And now it's a misunderstanding all the way around, straight up and down, left and right. But if you stop talking at people, start talking to people, stop talking down to people, and start speaking to people, pouring into people, a lot less misunderstandings will happen. And that's what it seems to be happening now. By and large, even the people who we identify as quote unquote sellouts and working for the man and you don't care, and see, that's your problem, and you're conservative and you're Trump supporter, whatever your bag is, if we stopped and listened, took the time to hear someone out, not responding when the K from okay leaves the atmosphere. You're responding in accordance to, I heard, I absorbed what you said, I processed, I sat in it for half a second, and then I thought, because then you would have this phrase used far less. See, I thought you were saying, but see, when we're having a conversation one-on-one and you're actively listening to understand, not to respond, at that moment, you wouldn't have thought I meant anything because you would have stopped and understood. You would have processed. I don't need you to agree with me. I just need you to hear me out, understand me, and embrace what I said. Sit in it for a second and go, give me a second. Because if we did that, we have far less misunderstandings. You on the outside of Chicago will realize we don't live in Beirut. You on the inside of Chicago will be smart enough to listen to the news and say, hey, well, I just got through walking through the hood and nothing happened. No, you would stop believing it was bad. It's getting bad. Excuse me, 1983, Gil Scott-Heron made a song called Get Yourself a Gun. Nowadays, everybody got a pistol. That's he has a song that is 40 years old. Get a gun. He's like, and one of his choruses is, if you give up yours, I give up mine. But it's getting bad. It's getting crazy. It's getting out of control. What the hell was Gil talking about 40 years ago? What the hell was Marvin talking about 50 years ago? What the hell was Stevie talking about 50 years ago? What the hell was Teddy Pendergrass and was it Hal Melvin and Blue Notes and featured Theodore Pendergrass talking about? What were they talking about? Because these are the same things they were talking about. What was Curtis Mayfield talking about? He's talking about the other side of town, 1978. What was he talking about? If it's getting bad. I said this last week. It's not getting bad. It is bad. It's been bad. And it's going to be bad. Now, what are you going to do to stop bad? I know one thing. We need to stop looking at the standard bearer and setting our bar at our oppressor, our potential dictator, the people who hate us, who do everything they can to denigrate, destroy, and subjugate us. We need to stop having them as the standard. The people who lead the nation in mass shootings, the people who lead the nation in child molestation, the people who lead the nation in domestic violence. And by the way, the people who lead the nation in domestic violence, and out of that group, guess who leads their community in domestic violence? The police officers. They attack their women more than any group in the country. So they are the standard. They are the peacekeepers, the standard bearers, the people who should represent virtue, and they're attacking their women more than anybody. And you think you should sound like them. You should think you should dress like them. You should talk like them. You should walk like them. You should behave like them. And you wonder why you're confused. So it's the standard bearer, truly the standard bearer, or it's the standard bearer. Is it a flaw in his standard? Because guess what? They are stripping their women of means to vote. They're stripping their women of rights. 1972, women in these United States of America just got the right to open a bank account without their father or their husband co-signing it. And they want to go back there, and there's a bunch of women over there in that group saying, oh, yeah, I don't mind. And they are not thinking. And you keep saying, well, it's not everybody over there. But explain to me is this. I just don't want to understand. If it's not everybody over there, and you're still struggling like you were struggling 50, 45, 50, 60 years ago, how many of them over there on your time? That's just a question, Let that sink in. With that being said, it's time for a little history. You know what I mean? It's time for you, man, throw some history your way, because history is important. If you don't know, like I remember once, about a year ago, I had somebody attack me. Don't nobody care about history, man. Who cares about their history stuff? Man, we need some answers. First of all, you're 55. At the time he was 53, I said, you're a 53-year-old man, and you still look for answers. You should be providing answers. You are elder now. But that's neither here nor there. But if you don't know where you came from, you don't know why you're sitting where you're sitting. If once you know where you came from, you know where you're sitting, you know how to navigate the future. Sankofa, shout out to the people in African American studies that created that concept. Or it's an African concept who brought that concept to light. It's called Sankofa. And I want you to understand these are the ways. These are ways of knowing as of right now, because we need to be there. We need to be there. So what we're going to do is show this Black History we're gonna show this Black History clip from I can't remember where this is from, but this one, no, either One Mic History or Black Journals. And I'll come back when I see it. I'll tell you what it's from. It's something that we need to see. It's something that we need to participate in. It's something that we need to be about. Because when you know better, you do better, no matter who you are. I want us to understand these things. Once we understand these things, we'll have a better grip on things. We have a better grip on things. We'll become unstoppable. We will become unstoppable. I promise you we will. With that being said, let me bring this up on the screen. You'll see the greatness and what has been covered up, and then you'll understand why I do what I do. Right there, I'll be back shortly.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, never mind the question of like how you can discover a place where the inhabitants are watching you arrive from the shore. They weren't wearing pants. Is that what somebody said? I like that.
Blacks as we know them are as old as time, and their existence in the civilized world could be traced down to the very early centuries, even before the coming of Christ. Going forward, the conventional history reports that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. And the same history also says that the first Black people to arrive America were enslaved Africans brought by Portuguese and Spanish traders in the early 16th century through the transatlantic slave trade. Well, none of these claims are true. We've been fooled all these while, as always has been the case. Interestingly, recent research has proven that some Black people had been in America for more than 1,000 years before Columbus ever stepped foot into the American continent. In fact, there is strong evidence pointing to the fact.
What is the main idea in your book, They Came Before Columbus?
The main idea in my book is to show that early America before the coming of Columbus, was a far more complex society than people imagined, and that it involved Africans. Africans came in here. They came in on several occasions. Sometimes these were accidents. Sometimes they were on purpose. And that they had an influence, an actual impact and influence upon the formation of certain American civilizations.
When we say pre-Columbus period, what are we talking about?
We're talking about long before 1492. It is absurd, and only fools can still believe that Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492. In fact, Columbus never even came to this continent. Columbus wandered about in the Caribbean islands, just on the very edge of the great civilizations.
Shocked? Don't be. It is true. Unraveling the raw truth behind the curtains of history is what we are about today in this video. Journey with us in our quest to find out just who the real lords of the Americas actually are.
So anyway, there were actually many other mariners before Columbus that discovered America as well. Decades earlier, even eons earlier, there were so many people that were coming across these islands.
Now, with that being said, as you see, I put that dude in there at the end. I left it there because a lot of people don't believe unless that other person tell them. And then I'm looking, rap could be lying. Where you get that from? But when one of those other people said, people didn't agree with it. But with that being said, I want you to visit www.theendofthebench.com and watch that video in its entirety. Then I get a little action on my website. You helping me help you, help me help you. Shout out to Bunker Church. That's her line. That's why I said that. But with that being said, I want you to understand, as you see, you were here first. You created things like Seneca Village. You created folklore like the goddess of California. That's a Black woman. It's folklore in West Africa. When you created spelunking caves in South Illinois, Southern Illinois, when you have raw writings on the wall and Pueblo, Colorado, that lets you know that we were here before anybody else even thought about coming here. When you look into those things and you understand just how powerful you are, when you look at the Wall of Benin, that's longer than the Great Wall of China, longer, Longer, than the Great Wall of China. When you find out there are cities in Africa that literally 1,000 years ago had irrigation and street lights, like in your urban areas, in your metropolitan areas, when they had that, when they had irrigation, when they had all these things, We did that, and those things are inculcated into your spirit if you just unlock them. When you find out you unlock them, and you find yourself being adept at doing things, and you go, how am I so good at this? And it's because that was part of your DNA. You're genetically predisposed to be able to do that because your grandfather did it, your grandmother did it, your uncles and aunts and sisters and brothers did it, but you never paid attention to it because you thought you were some hard luck case. And that's the way you have been designed to think here in these Americas. Because remember, I say, who's the standard bearer? Because what we end up doing is graduating from striving to middle class, to upper middle class, to potentially rich and then wealthy. But when you're in a striving community, you want to go join the winning team per se. They hate us. Why go join them? They hate us. Why go join them? When you see, what do is watch television, and you listen to people frame us in the worst kinds of ways on all networks. And then you see people make us out to be the worst. And they don't think you know it's people repeating, regurgitating, rinse, repeat every negative statistic you've ever heard about my community. Not comparing them to anybody, but just denigrating my folks. Our black women are no good. Our black men are no good. They're shiftless. They don't want to come home. They party all night. They drink all night. They get drunk and they're lazy. But we've created just about every major invention here in the United States of America. From the valve for heart surgery to the filament that keeps that light going that you see above me, to mass production of auto mechanics, to cartridges, what we call cartridges of downloading for video games. I mean, the Ring doorbell was a black woman, the formula for the moonwalk, black woman, but we're lazy, we're shiftless, we don't want to do anything. It is utterly amazing that we've done all these things and we're lazy. Or how is it that we've taken all the jobs, but you don't have a job either, but you're mad that I took the job, that I'm too lazy to work with me? So why join them? There's the pure disdain and a certain disdain for our community, our people, our women, our children, and me and myself and my community of black men. So why are we going over there joining? Because we're trying for approval. We'll go join them because we're trying for approval. The reason you're trying for approval because you want to be liked. If you want to be liked, all you have to do is this. Watch this. If I can take myself off the camera, come back, I'll like that guy on the camera. That's all you have to do. Walk past that mirror, like that person in the mirror. Because when you like yourself so much, I don't mean be egotistical or what's the new word, narcissistic. That's the new term. Well, it's not a new term, but it's the new flowery term that everybody throws the banties about. But when you are in love with you, you only know how to love others. But if you are not so in love with you, you might not love yourself that much. You might not give yourself the grace to be able to make mistakes, to be able to make poor decisions and bounce back. See, we go join them and bring our light to them. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, I said, we're no longer going to pass the torch. Because if I pass you the torch, now I'm standing in dark. We're going to light other torches. Why would we take your torch and move it to Schaumburg, Skokie, Aurora? No disrespect to my man. I got people that live out there. Why would we take our light and move it to another place? Because now they're well lit and we're in the dark. But see, if we run out the darkness, then our light will continue to bustle and shine. So we don't have to join anyone in order to be great. We're great as a standalone entity. We're great. And I want you to understand, I want you to remember that, I want you to embrace it, I want you to live by it. Because when you realize that you're great, you'll do great things, you have great thoughts, and you'll move in a great way. See, I saw this saying yesterday. When people use you, it's not because you're useless. You can't use a useless person. And we've been used the entire time we've been here. So are we useless? Or are you useless because you had to use a useless individual to attain what you wanted to obtain? Listen to that. I'm so useless that you've stolen all my ideas. I'm so useless that you have no one attacks homeless people. Don't traditionally punch down. They punch up because above is better in their mind, but they say it's better. Okay, I gotta get up there because it's better than down here. Then you get up there and it's regular. And then you face more discrimination than you did when you were regular. But you got more money and I have more status. but you're still you. You're still you. So if you want to continue to engage in that type of tomfoolery, go ahead. It's yours. As Dreads from Black Sheep said, the choice is yours. You can give it this or you can give it that. You can give it this or you can give it that. You can give it this because this is where it's at. And that's where it is. Over here is where it's at. But you must learn how to, as a recap, you must learn how to identify why you're paying attention over there. Are you paying attention over there to absorb the information that they have and enhance you? Or you are paying attention to show that you're worthy of being over there, which would be foolish. Look at the standard bearer. Well, who's the standard bearer and why are they the standard bearer and are they adhering to the said standards? So you don't have to adhere to those standards because you live in a community large enough to create an entity within that community that you don't have to deal with anybody else. And why joining them? Why is joining them your first option? I'm listening. Why is joining them the first option? Because it shouldn't be. Because anybody can join the team that's winning, but are you on a winning team? You have to ask yourself that. Black man, black woman, black child, black baby. You have to ask yourself, are you the standard bearer? Anybody can join that fight, but are you there to win or are you there to participate? With that being said, hey, I'll be on the forecast in in an hour 20 minutes, hour 18 minutes. Be right here. You'll get the notification, continue to pop. I just want us to understand we must start paying attention for enhancement and not denigration. We must set our own standard and then we'll need no standard barrier. And why join someone who doesn't like you? You're setting yourself up to lose. With that being said, I am Brian HRap B. Williams. This is the End of the Bench Media. I want you to know that I greatly appreciate everything you do for me, with the support, with the like, with the share. Continue to do so because see you tomorrow.
Cannot build wealth and power until you have a community. We are the only people in this nation that do not have one single solitary community. You cannot acquire power and wealth without a community, and yet we do not have one single black community in America. That's from New York to San Diego. To have a community, you must have three things in it, Paul. You must have a wholly independent economic structure, just like you got one down in Asia Town. Two, you must have a code of conduct on how you're going to treat each other, and how you're going to interact with each other, and how you're going to deal with each other and bargain with each other. And thirdly, you must have some form of governance that will control and regulate the behavior of people in your community and deal with other organizations outside your community. Blacks do not qualify on either one of those terms. We do not have communities. So consequently, without a community, you have no place to store your wealth, your value, your history, your culture, your employment, and your business opportunities.